Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest prices available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Folks, welcome into Degenerate Danger Zone. It is Monday, June 7th, and you know what it is. It's time to get that free money. I am your host, Ty B. We got Slick Al and some guy named Steve joining me here. Steve and I just cashed in over 13 in the fifth inning over in the College World Series. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we got playoffs here tonight, boys. Got some very interesting series getting kicked off in the NBA and the NHL continuing to roll on. Let's start here in the NBA here tonight because I think these are two of the most intriguing games on the entire slate out of all the sports here tonight. We got Bucks at Nets, a 1-point spread in that one. Bucks as favorites, kind of surprisingly there on the road. And then Nuggets are getting 5.5 at the Suns, getting that series underway. Slick, let's get started here in that Eastern Conference series. That 1-point line just seems a little weird with the Nets being at home.
Yeah, you know, Ty B, I think it's Vegas's way of trying to trick you into taking the underdog in this situation. As in 3 hours ago, the Bucks were favored by 1 point, and then now, the Nets were favored by 1 point, and the Bucks are now favored by a point. I think Vegas is just toying with you last minute at this line, and they're using it to their advantage because of Harden's out status. They're trying to portray this picture that, we don't know what to expect with the Nets without Harden. They've done it too many times this season without Harden. They're just flat out the better team. As Meerkat would say, these Bucks are frauds. I think this series ends in like 4 or 5 games. I'm serious. This Nets team, with or without Harden, is going to whoop this Bucks team's ass.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think that's exactly what it is. It's one of these situations where they're putting in a little rat trap. And we see this, throughout. And I called it there on Game 7 with that line with the Mavericks and the Clippers. It was an absolute rat trap. Everyone and their mother was going to take Luka getting those points after the way the series had played out. And so when you see a line that doesn't sort of fit with the narrative or, what's been going on, something is happening, something is going on behind the scenes. And I think that's right where it is. I'm with you. I'm going to take the Nets. I still don't trust the Bucks in big moments in this one, especially with how deep the Nets are. I think they match up, decently well here with the Bucks as well. So no one's really going to shut down KD, I don't think. Giannis just doesn't play good enough defense. So I think they're going to have their way with it. You see the over-under at 237.5. Not a lot of defense can be played in that series. So it's going to be very fun, Steve. What are you looking at for the NBA?
We saw Game 1 this past weekend. Harden left a minute into the game, more like 15 seconds into the game, and it was no problem. No Harden, no problem for KD and Kyrie. And the big thing is, when a superstar player like Harden gets hurt on a team, that changes it. But the Brooklyn Nets have 3 complete superstar players that can take over the game. And the Bucks really didn't have an answer for KD or Kyrie, even though they didn't have their greatest game. They still combined for, I think it was like 57 points, but they both shot under 50% from the field. Blake Griffin had a phenomenal Game 1, 18 points, 14 rebounds, kind of dominated, almost bullied him. He made 4 threes as well. And it's just, I think people are just going to overreact to the Harden injury. They're like, Harden's out this game. Even if the people didn't watch Game 1, they're like, Harden's out. I should probably take the Bucks. It's a 1-point game, even up the series. Well, Harden didn't play in Game 1. And the game, I think the Nets won by 8, 115-107, but they were up by like 15 from the majority of the third quarter. That game was just in control. And this Nets team, it's just a constant attack. KD and Kyrie, you can't stop both of them. And if Blake Griffin plays like he does in Game 1, the Bucks don't have a shot in this series. So I'm not overreacting to an injury. I never like to overreact to injuries, especially when you see spreads move like they did. And as Slick said, it was +1 Bucks, and now it's -1 Bucks. I'm just going to take the Nets. I think they get both games at home to start the series.
Yeah, and another very interesting series, Nuggets, Suns, Meerkats, Nuggets, got a big series win there in the first round over the Trailblazers after some, bumps in the road, but they were able to get it done. And the Suns obviously shocking the Lakers. Not too shocking to people who've actually paid attention to the league all season long. You saw the Lakers being shaky, and the Suns really turning things on. They played very well as a team, especially over the last month or two of this season. It seems like They've even, began to play some team defense, which is something the Suns hadn't been able to do over the past few seasons, and a reason why they had been still faltering there in that Western Conference, couldn't get over the hump. But adding Chris Paul seems to have remedied a lot of those issues there. Slick, in this one, what's your play? Because I think I'm all over Nuggets plus 5.5.
Yeah, the spread is definitely generous in favor of the Nuggets tonight. I think plus 5.5 is very doable. This to me is the most interesting matchup of the second round because you kind of have two Western Conference teams that were slept on all year. Right now they're being led in the playoffs by two vets with a bunch of young bucks surrounding them that are really explosive on offense. Like these guys are really showing out in the playoffs. Devin Booker, MPJ, as I was talking about before the show. I'm really interested to see what goes down in this series. Ultimately, I think Phoenix wins the series because they've just impressed me way too much as far as the playoffs go in terms of the Lakers series. They didn't just beat the champions, they dominated them. And the Nuggets, I think they got plus 5 tonight, but I think the Suns take this series in 7 games.
Steve, how you see this one playing out here tonight?
I like the Nuggets in first game, and this might be kind of a series where I'm just always on the underdog. If you see maybe Phoenix gets points in Denver, I'm just going to kind of go that way. I think these teams are very balanced, and they've both kind of improved throughout the year. The Nuggets, yeah, they lost Jamal Murray. That hurts, but Michael Porter Jr. has stepped up big time, and he stepped up huge in that series versus Portland. We all saw what Devin Booker did against the Lakers. He was sensational. But we also forget these teams, they played 3 times in the regular season. The Suns won by 3, and then the Nuggets won the other 2 games. They went to overtime and double overtime. Jokic dominated in those games, averaged around 26 points, 14 boards, 8 assists. I mean, you're not going to stop Jokic. He's going to win the MVP. But I just think this is a close series. I think it's going to probably go 6 or 7 games. It's going to be tight almost every game. So with that being said, I just like the value on the points probably every single night. I'm going to see which team's getting the points, and that's kind of how I'm going to play it.
Absolutely. And I think you can get some decent value on some of the money lines there. If you're riding the underdog in the game, plus 175 on the Nuggets here tonight, if you think they're going to get that, big game 1 win, which is entirely possible. It's going to be a very, very good series. Jokic versus Ayton in the paint all night long. It's going to be very, very fun.
Yeah.
Would it be interesting to see how much Ayton can actually contain the Joker?
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy Harris locked down DeAndre Ayton. People forget that.
We'll never forget that game, Tybee. We'll never forget that one.
Yeah, but let's hop over here. NHL, we got 2 games as well. Islanders, Bruins about to drop the puck at 6:30, very close to that one. Bruins minus 200, Isles plus 160 right now. And then we got Jets, Canadians. Canadians, are they going to sweep the Jets? It's entirely possible right now. Minus 143. Tonight, plus 118. Mark Scheifele's still out. Stevie, what are your plays here for the NHL tonight?
So I like the Canadians on the money line. I got it around minus 145, and I'm also parlaying them with the Bruins, a little sprinkle on both money lines there. Love the Canadians in this spot, though. I love when a team's going for a sweep. I think the Jets look dead, and they kind of showed it towards the end of the previous game. Carey Price is in the groove where he's without a doubt the best goalie in the world right now. And I think his last 6 straight games, they won all of them. A 1.66 goals allowed, 31 saves a game, and a 94.8 save percentage. It doesn't matter what offense you have. You can't beat a team when Carey Price is playing like that. Now they're at home, a chance to close out the series when people didn't even give them a chance against Toronto in the first round. Now they have a chance to represent, the Canada team. I think the Canadians get it done. I'm just riding the hot goalie. I think, Slick, we've been riding Carey Price kind of since the Toronto series.
Absolutely.
And they've been disrespected kind of by the books for probably the past 2 weeks because you just think the team's bad. Now the books are kind of reacting a little bit. Minus 140, minus 150. Yeah, you're going to lay juice, but I'm telling you what, I think the Canadians are a lock tonight.
Yeah, I think Winnipeg seemed pretty deflated, at least over those last couple of games, giving up late goals on top of, trailing all game pretty much, and not having your best player out there on the ice and Mark Scheifele. It's going to be too much, I think, for them to overcome. I think they're going to be getting sent home. And that Bruins-Islanders series is going to be a lot of fun. I think I'm going to stay away from it with my money. at any point, either of these teams could win any game. Like, I'm not going to be like,
Yeah.
just because one team's home or away, like it means that much, because both of them have some real, legitimate playoff experience now with the Isles run they had last season, getting as far as they did. They've played very, very well under Barry Trotz, so it's tough to bet against them in this situation. But I'm just going to be staying away from it. We do have some other stuff going on. We got some baseball, only a few MLB games, but College World Series been doing pretty well over the weekend, up,
For sure.
a few units. So feeling pretty decently here. We tried to go with the over on both of the early games here. Got hurt a little bit on that first game on the over 14, ended up 6-5, had the tying run on base on third at the end. That was a little tough pill to swallow. But tonight here, we're looking at ODU to bounce back against Virginia. They're the best hitting team in all of Conference USA. They had 7 batters over 300 this season. I think they're going to mash here tonight. They're in a great situation here to get a big win. I know they're not at home because their stadium is not big enough to host, but I think there's going to be a lot of ODU fans, a lot more than you're going to see on the other side with Virginia. Virginia's been there before, but they've had a pretty big down year. They're feeling good, that they've gotten as far as they did, in my opinion. I thought South Carolina is much better than them, but not able to get over that. So I'm riding ODU here in this one, and then in another game I'm going with the under in that Arkansas game. I think Arkansas is just poised in a perfect situation where I don't think they threw any of their top end relievers, especially Kevin Kopps, who has as a closer has double digit saves and double digit wins.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
And the lowest ERA in all of college baseball by over a half run. The dude is absolutely insane. When you bring in Kevin Kopps, it's whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police. He's closing this game out. He's locking everyone up. And I think that's what's going to happen here tonight. You can get under 12. Yeah, I'll lay a little bit of juice on that one. I just think Arkansas is going to lock things down here tonight. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. Steve, anything you got on those MLB games?
It's not an official play, but one I definitely have my eye on is the Royals plus 130 at the Angels. Everyone likes to take the Angels because, the big names, Ohtani, Trout. Obviously, Trout's injured. But the big deal here is the Angels are pitching Dylan Bundy, who's been miserable. He's gone back to his Orioles form, right? He's kind of forgot that he's on the Angels again. 0-6 on the year, a 6.49 ERA, a 1.32 whip. He's been miserable, and the Royals have just called up Jackson Kowar. A lot of people don't really know who Jackson Kowar is, but this guy has been lighting up AAA this year. In 6 starts, he has a .85 ERA and a 33.9 K percentage, that's as elite as they come. Now, he was solid in the minors the years before, but it was never like this. He kind of worked on his curveball, and he's been lights out. The Royals are giving him an opportunity, and a lot of times when a prospect gets the call, the first couple starts, opposing batters don't really know what to expect. So they're caught off guard, and when you have a guy whose stuff is as nasty as Kowar's with his strikeout rate, I like him as a dog. I like the value at plus 130. Maybe take him the first 5 innings if you don't trust the Royals bullpen, but they've had an okay bullpen this year. And I think plus 130 for the game is decent value against a team like the Angels that are a popular team, but their starting pitcher today has just been miserable all season long.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And if you're looking for another dog, Paul Maneri and the LSU Tigers. It's Paul Maneri's last ride. He announced already that he's going to be retiring at the end of the season. LSU squeezed their way into the tournament, plus 160, plus 170 underdogs here tonight in Oregon as the nightcap. Make sure you guys are watching that one if you don't have anything to watch late here tonight. That one will probably be on one of the ESPN family networks, I would assume. I don't know why they wouldn't. You have Trey Morgan over at first base, who's going to be a first-round pick coming up here in the next few seasons. The kid is just absolutely phenomenal. A 350 bat, hits for power, has speed, gets all over the place. Plays a great defensive first base that you don't normally see. Like in college baseball, you see a lot of big, stocky guys over there. He looks like an absolute athlete, and he plays like it. They're a very good team. Just got hurt with some injuries to their pitching staff, but I still love Blake Money. He's going to have them all fired up for Paul Maneri. We saw this a few seasons back where Florida State barely squeaked into the tournament, and their manager announced he was going to be retiring at the end of the season. They went on an unbelievable run to get themselves to Omaha. We could see the same out of LSU. That's why I'm like, some good value on them there tonight. But any other plays you guys like here tonight?
I mean, to your point with LSU, Tybee, they won last night against Oregon 4-1. They got the confidence. They know they can beat them. They're 1 win away.
Yeah, I just got
Absolutely.
one more play here. Something that, if you catch it at the right time, could be very nice for your wallet on the books. At the Creek, they're offering the NBA Series market odds. Hawks are up. I never thought I would be saying this in June, guys. The Hawks are up 1-0 on the Sixers, and they're at even money to win the series. Hawks are winning the series. I have been so, like, out of any team in the NBA playoffs right now that you could say has impressed me the most that I had no idea was going to, it's Atlanta. We know what Trae Young can do.
Yeah.
Bogdanovich never really impressed me in Sacramento. He's a good shooter. Herder, like, yeah, I know he's a good player. These guys are stepping up and playing legitimate, tough nose playoff basketball. And it's a breath of fresh air to see because I feel like we haven't seen a team with this kind of grit since the early 2000s, maybe in like a Detroit Pistons team, with Ben Wallace and them. I'm not saying that's that team, but the grit reminds me of a similar vibe. And I think the Hawks are beating the series. I think they'll let Embiid get his own and they'll shut down everybody else. And I think the Hawks will win this series in 5 or 6. Even money. Book it.
Wow. Yeah. I don't think that's a bad play right there. Slick was absolutely crushing it on Slick Saturday again this weekend. That's why you guys got to make sure you follow at Degenerate Zone over on Twitter. We'll be back throughout most of this week bringing you DDZs, but then the Blue Jays will be back in town next weekend or next week, throwing everything off when the Yankees are here midweek. But we'll be bringing you guys episodes throughout most of this week here. And Slick, it's going to be another big Saturday here for the UFC.
Big Saturday. We got 2 championship rematches, and the West Coast Gangster is coming back. Must see TV, folks. I don't care who you are. If Nate Diaz is fighting, you're probably watching. And that's
No,
the case.
absolutely.
And that's the third fight. That's the third fight before the main event. So I'm absolutely psyched for Saturday. And I know Steve is too.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a slick one.
Always.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be an unbelievable day of fights on Saturday. And they're, getting everyone hyped up for it with what's coming back this week. The Ultimate Fighter, I believe, returns on ESPN Plus this week as well. So that's huge for the UFC. Make sure you guys pay attention to that because you see a lot of names from that end up making the roster, and it may not be immediately, but they make their presence known. Billy Quarantillo fought on the Ultimate Fighter a few years back, didn't end up making it through, but ended up fighting on Dana White's Contender Series, and now has gone into the UFC. I think he's like 3-1, 4-1 with UFC since he's joined.
And the reason so many prospects do make it out of that competition, whether they win it or not, is because you got to realize how effing hard it is to win that competition. Like all those guys staying at one house under the same roof with their coaches, no phones, no nothing, just training and fighting in the apex. It's unbelievable. There's nothing like the Ultimate Fighter in sports, and I'm so glad it's back with amazing coaches such as Ortega and Volkanovski. And I can't wait for that championship fight once it does come around. But
that's going to be a slobber knocker. One of the smallest slobber knockers you'll ever see.
Yeah, for little words, yes, absolutely. But episode 1 was a slapper, and I'm pumped for episode 2 for sure.
Yep, huge. And, that's pretty much going to wrap it up here for us at Degenerate Danger Zone. Make sure you follow us over at Degenerate Zone on Twitter. Make sure you guys like and subscribe if you're watching over on YouTube. Retweet this, share this, do whatever you got to do. We'll be back bringing you more free money throughout the week, like I said. So shout out to Slick Al and some guy named Steve for joining me. Get out there, go hammer your books, go hammer the creek, do whatever you got to do. Go get that free money. Good night now.